Alright, um, every part of this country has, like, its little stories, like, the cowboys and Indians and all that shit. And, yeah, my part of the country, it's one little story there about Massachusetts that seems to be very interesting to people, is the '78 blizzard. And, whenever people talk about it, they always talk about how 128, when people were, doing the commute from Boston, was when the storm hit, and 128 was like a parking lot. People just abandoned their cars. A lot of people froze to death or died of carbon monoxide poisoning in their cars. You couldn't drive for a week. It snowed, I believe, for 24 hours straight. We got, I think, 30 plus inches in Boston. It's all pretty interesting, and it's a great story to talk about. But you very rarely ever hear about the tragedy that took place in this very harbor. The story of 5 men that set out to sea in a steel pilot boat to come to the aid of a disabled Coast Guard boat that was trying to rescue the crew of a sinking oil tanker. I know it sounds very confusing, but they did. They braved 30 and 40-foot waves and winds about 60 to 70, gusting up to 100, to try to help their friends, and they died for it. And I'm going to try to do my best to explain this story to you guys about how these people suffered this tragedy only about a mile offshore. There was a really good book written about it called 10 Hours Until Dawn, but that wasn't how I learned about it. You'll learn through the videos that I'm going to make about it how I learned about it. But for anybody that has ever read the book 10 Hours Until Dawn, I'm going to show a lot of the scenes from that book to give you a better idea of some of the things that you read about that you may not have known what they looked like. So this is the first part of it, and well, I hope you guys like it. Alright, there it is. I figure if you guys are going to be hearing about it, you might as well know what it looks like. That's the boat formerly known as Can-Do. This is how I found out about it. Just been sitting there for like 20 years. Day after day. The only time it moves, it seems, is when the wind blows it in a different direction or the tide changes. The guy that owns it never seems to use it. And in the summertime, assholes and fiberglass shitboxes file past it, and none of them most likely know the fucking horrific fucking story that boat has to tell. The first time I ever saw that boat was in the early 80s, and me and my old man were in here in our old Novi hull, and we went by it, and it was moored in with a bunch of, sailboats and fishing boats and lobster boats, and it was just so different. It has like a rugged industrial look to it that many boats don't have, and I guess even as a kid I was attracted to that kind of shit, because the truth is, for me, it was like love at first sight, seeing that fucking boat. And I said something to my dad about how cool I thought it was, and he took me by it, and when we were going past it, pretty close to it, he told me that brave men died on that boat during the '78 blizzard trying to save some people that were stranded. And if I wanted to know more about it, I should talk to my Uncle Warren, because my Uncle Warren was involved in the rescue and also was very good friends with Frank, the guy that owned the boat. So there it is. I think you guys will see this boat again in these videos, but I figured you should see it, and the next video will be about my visits to Uncle Warren's. Uncle Warren. Uncle Warren was in the Coast Guard, and at some point in his adult life he went blind, and obviously couldn't be in the Coast Guard anymore. So he became some job that he performed in conjunction with the Salem Harbor master, It was called Salem Control, and basically he organized any radio traffic pertaining to shipping and boats in Salem Sound. I used to go over his house a lot as a kid with my grandmother, and instead of sitting with her and her sister, I'd always go down to the Salem Control radio room and sit with Uncle Warren. There was always something amazing going on, at least in the eyes of a kid, you know, radios, Morse code going off in the background. He was a ham radio operator, I don't know if I mentioned that too. He'd always get some distant radio station and have me stand next to him, and he'd be like talking to the guy, and he'd be like, well, I got my young nephew here, and you know, I'd like to have him talk to you. And then he'd put me on the radio and I'd talk to the guy. I'd never know what to say, but I did it, and it's kind of interesting because I can trace that back to what really got me interested in radio as a kid. So now that was cool. But the big thing about Uncle Warren's job was like what we would do. Like we were going out on a boat, we'd just call him, you know, Salem Control on the radio, and he'd always be there, and we'd just tell him where we were going and when we were coming back, and it was kind of reassuring to know that if something happened, because we had gone out in some pretty shitty fucking weather, that, you know, if something happened, that Uncle Warren was out there, and you know, he'd be organizing some people to come get us. So, you know, that's that. But he had a great deal of knowledge about each and every incident and or search and rescue operation to take place from like Boston to the New Hampshire border. It was just a part of his job, and he was very respected by the harbor masters and the Coast Guard in our area. He was always there, and so while I was there, he would talk to me about these things, and it was pretty interesting because he had a knack for telling stories, and he had a lot of knowledge. And I'd listen to him, and he'd talk about all these missions that that he helped coordinate, because that's what he did. And well, one of the ones that he would talk about, and he would get the most, I don't want to say emotional, but he would get the most excited to talk about, was the rescue of the ThePilotBoatCanDo, or I should say the search for the ThePilotBoatCanDo. Because Uncle Warren and Frank Quirk were very good friends, and this was really the time that he was trying to save one of his very best friends in the world, and really couldn't. But he gave me this because he knew I was interested in this subject. He gave me this tape, and what the tape says on it is Tanker Global Hope, February 6th, 1978, by Warren Andrews. And this tape contains every single radio transmission made between the Coast Guard, Salem Control, the Global Hope, and the ThePilotBoatCanDo, and a radio station out of Beverly, Massachusetts. And it basically just details each and everything that happened between February 6th and February 7th of 1978. What led up to the crew of the ThePilotBoatCanDo dying. So what I'm going to do with this tape is I'm going to play you guys some little pieces of it, and between the tape and I got an old chart, I'm going to try to give you the best explanation that I can give you of what happened to the Can-Do. And you know, you got to remember when I'm doing this, I am not a sea captain. I am not a documentary filmmaker. I'm a truck driver, and I just happen to have an interesting story that I hope I can tell properly without fucking it up. So I'm going to try to play a little bit of this for you guys just to get an idea of Uncle Warren. And so here we go. It's coming.
The following tape has been made at Salem Control. February 6, 1978. The 685-foot oil tanker Global Hope dragged its anchor and went aground on Coney Island Ledge. seriously with the loss of the pilot boat Can-Do and 5 lives. At 1700 hours, local weather was heavy snow, visibility less than 1 mile, winds at the northeast gusting to 50, air temperature mid-20s, seas were becoming very rough. Time 17:15.
Alright, a lot of that's going to be hard for you people to hear, hard for you people to determine what it says, but I've listened to this tape about 100 times, and as we go I'll explain it. This is about the best I can do, seeing as Uncle Warren's gone, of having him right here with me. So, well, on to the next video. Alright, it's February 6th of 1978. As it stands right now, the Global Hope is anchored somewhere in this area. The winds are coming in this direction. Every time I do this from now on, I'm going to make sure that the camera is facing south to north, so you guys can just get an idea of the chart. Alright, here's Baker's Island, here's Misery Island, there's the Gooseberries. This is Salem, this is Beverly. This coastline here leads up to Gloucester. Unfortunately, our chart doesn't have Gloucester on it. I didn't bring the one. I didn't figure I'd need 2 charts to do this. So, as I was saying, the Global Hope is anchored somewhere in here, with the winds coming out of this direction. And I got some traffic on the tape about Uncle Warren contacting Coast Guard Station Gloucester regarding people reporting to him that the Global Hope had been dragging anchor. They go back and forth between the Coast Guard and the captain of the Global Hope, who was Greek. It's a Greek ship, and the people on board don't speak English well at all, so it's very hard to understand them. Fortunately, in the section I'm going to play you right now, the Coast Guard officer repeats everything the guy says. So even though the Global Hope will be very difficult for you to understand, the Coast Guard Station Gloucester radio operator is extremely clear, and he's going to repeat everything. So I'm just going to play that a little bit, and then we'll see where it goes from there.
Approximately 1800 hours. Coast Guard Station, notified the station about 45 minutes ago. We got reports from residents along the Beverly shoreline that tanker was striking anchor. Over.
Alright guys, I don't want to like overdo it with the tape because I don't know how some of you are receiving that. I've got some good reports from the videos I've made before though. Alright, so what we have now is the Global Hope was anchored around here and the wind has pushed it. You don't find out until later on in the tape, but it has pushed it onto Coney Island Ledge right here. See this little island? Basically, if you look at the chart, they go from 40 to 46 feet of water right here, even 48 feet in some spots, onto Coney Island Ledge, which is 13, 14, 7, 3. See what I'm saying? So I'm just going to clue you guys in to what's going on that the people involved in this rescue don't know. The Global Hope has gone aground and its hull has split open in its engine room. It's taking on water and all the rescuers think that the ship might be sinking. But in all actuality, it's pretty much high and dry on the shoal. That's the saddest part of the story. That this entire massive rescue effort is undergoing during a storm. And I got to tell you guys, in case I forget, this storm, even though you're hearing reports on the tape of, you know, I think it'll be some 7-foot waves, and then it got up to 20. The storm pretty much just explodes at some point, and you know, the waves. There's reports of the waves being 48 to 50 feet. So you got to bear that in mind as I'm telling you what's happening to these people. If I don't keep reminding you, so that's what we have now. I'm gonna check the tape. I'm gonna pause this a minute, check the tape, see if I can find something else good. All right. When the Coast Guard received this report, obviously, I mean, they have to they're doing their job. It's their job to make sure people don't get killed on boats, I guess, would be the most simplest way to explain it. So they scramble, or are in the process of scrambling right now. They're the 44-footer and the 41-footer out of Gloucester, which means they're going to be coming from this direction, the direction of the storm. They're also simultaneously trying to get, I think, a 210-footer and a 95-foot Coast Guard cutter out of Boston, which unfortunately will be coming from this direction, which they're going into the storm. So I'm not going to get into too much about what happens with those boats, but it's going to be a very long time before the 210-footer or the 95-footer ever even get to Salem Sound, because they're going right into the damn storm. So the 41 and 44 are coming down here. Now I got a little section of tape I want to play for you, because unfortunately most of the stuff that comes out of the can-do is, especially later on in the night, you'll see, is going to be very hard to understand. So this is actually an exchange between Frank and Coast Guard Station Gloucester. The can-do, Frank, was the pilot boat that actually piloted the Global Hope into Salem Sound originally. So he's trying to explain the best he knows about the Global Hope, what it looks like, and I'll discuss it more.
Sound control, rise to Coast Guard, roger that one. We'll be standing by 1681 The following is Captain Frank Quirk aboard the ThePilotBoatCanDo. Right, pilot, and that's what we can do. I guess I'm missing you at this time, but we will be standing by. Still dockside Gloucester. I want you to be aware, the other ship is 686 foot long, and she is light, very light. Just the last thing, I got you with about 11 foot forward, around 20 foot aft. Whether they balance it down after that, I don't know. And it's going to be one great big problem if they do have a problem due to the conditions here. Roger that. Well, I think we're going to get a boat underway here, and I'm going to give him a call and tell that he is taking on water anyway right now. Yeah, well, everything twice, your expression, but everything twice in the boat up here tonight. You might get up here, but I don't think you're going to get back to Gloucester the way this is making up here now. If we can be of any help, I don't have any, pumps aboard, but if there's any help, we'll be standing by you. Roger that, Gloucester.
Alright, you could just hear in that Frank telling the Coast Guard basically that he thought he'd think twice before he sent a boat out on a night like tonight, because you might get down there, but you're probably not going to make it back the way it's making up here, is what he said, in case you guys can't make out what they're saying. Alright, I don't know if the tape is going to tell you this. I mean, I got little marks where I want to, specific stuff I want to tell you, but maybe later on Warren addresses it. The Global Hope is here. As you just heard Frank say, it takes, I think, what do you say, 11 feet forward and 20-something feet aft, 20 feet aft, 22. Alright, like I said, Coney Island Ledge is 13 feet of water right now. So, they're aground, but their radio equipment was shorted out. So, from this point on, you never hear anything else from the Global Hope. Their last transmission was, we're taking on water in our engine room. And if you remember correctly, the guy was kind of screaming into the mic, panicking. So, now, this massive rescue operation starts, and remember, the snow at this point, if I remember correctly, is falling 3 inches an hour, maybe 4 inches an hour. You can't see anything. Uncle Warren says in the tape that there were coastal residents along this coast calling him, reporting, and also I think in Marblehead, calling him, reporting distress calls, short bursts of a ship's whistle. So that's all they know, is that they got this Mayday and there's distress calls. So in the next video, which might not be today, might be tomorrow, we're going to get into the 44 and the 41 trying to make their way down to Salem Sound and what happens, because I got some really good audio about that. So, see you guys later. Alright, at this point in the story, the Coast Guard Station Gloucester has sent out its 44 and 41 foot patrol boats. The only interesting thing I can really tell you about them from what I know is that the 44 is a concrete keel, so that if it flips over or capsizes, it actually can right itself. As a little kid, I remember hearing about that and just thinking it was about the coolest fucking thing I'd ever heard. But so that's that. What they're doing is they're coming down from Gloucester, and the important part, one of the big important parts to remember about this story, is that the only safe way into Salem Sound with a larger boat is this piece of water right here, in between Misery Island and Baker's Island. If you go to the north, it's pretty shallow, and if you go to the south here, it's definitely dangerous. This is a piece of water, a shoal called the Gooseberries, and well, that'll be a very important part of the story later on. So the 41 and 44 are heading for this piece of water right here, and at this part of the story, though, the 41, which is more like a speedboat and not designed for this kind of water, is turning around. So I'm just going to play you a little radio clip from that, and then we'll move on.
The following is the Gloucester Coast Guard 41353 getting underway from Gloucester, coming up to Salem Sound.
Alright, so that's that. The 41 is now heading back to Gloucester, going into the storm. That's why they're taking them over the bow. The 44 is continuing down to Salem Sound, and they're still in following seas. So they get it right about to here, and somewhere in this general area, I believe they make it between the pass there at Misery Island and Baker's Island. At some point, they lose their radar, which is a very big deal on a night like the one in question. I've got all the audio of that, but I'm trying not to do too much audio here. So they lose their radar, and they're going. Hold on, I'm trying to set up the next one here. Alright. They're going, at this point they have no fathometer, which tells you how deep the water is that you're in. No radar, and the compass light is out. So basically, and this is an important part of their story, they have no navigational aids. They can probably see 40 feet in front of them, and that's it. They continue on to right about here. This right here is called Hospital Point. I'll show you a little clip of it at the end of this video because I went there. And I actually have Hospital Point, and I have the view of Hospital Point at night from the Salem Willows, which will be looking in this direction. So Uncle Warren gets a call from a member of the Northeast Surf Patrol that the 44 is 200 yards off of Hospital Point, which this is all rocky. You'll see it. So he says, you know, don't go to the north anymore. And so that's that there. Now, this is the point of this entire story. The 44 is without navigational aid. All right? Frank is still up in Gloucester in the pilot boat can-do. And the plan is, and I'm going to play you what they're talking about, that he's going to come from Gloucester and get into Salem Sound and hook up with the 44, because at this point they're going to call off the search for the oil tanker because the 44 is so heavily damaged. And Frank is going to try to guide the 44 into Salem or Beverly Harbor. And so that's the point, and I'm going to play this little clip of audio right here. This is Frank talking to Coast Guard Station Gloucester. Now what he just said there, in case you're not getting it, is forget about the vessel at this time. Proceed to Beverly. So he's fearing for the lives of his crew. So he's telling them just to keep on going. And, you know, there's other ships on the way that can help the oil tanker get yourselves to safety. Now this is important too for later on. That was Coast Guard Station Gloucester asking Frank if he was going to take a shot at it. Alright? Important to remember. Alright, I had to stop it there. That's Coast Guard Station Gloucester, Mike Paradis, he's the commander, stating that they have other Coast Guard facilities en route, meaning the 210 and the 95, and they don't want to put a small boat crew at risk. Now, unfortunately, this is going to go back to my usual videos, the media heard that and was trying to say that Frank was ordered by the Coast Guard not to go out. But the truth is, the small boat crew that Mike Paradis was talking about was the 44-footer. He was worried about losing his own small boat crew, which is also why Frank goes out. Not to rescue the oil tanker, but to try to aid the 44-footer in finding safe water. So I'm going to play a little more of this because this just irritates the crap out of me because the media constantly does this, and I will read you guys a news article that basically states the exact opposite of the truth towards the end of the series. Alright, you just clearly hear Frank say, with you're okay, I'd like to go outside the harbor and, see and take a look around and see if I can't get down there. And you hear the commander of Coast Guard Station Gloucester saying, okay, I'd appreciate that or something. Meaning, he knows Frank is going down there to try to assist one of his crews. I'm not trying to be mean to the Coast Guard here at all, but it's the media. The media fucks up everything they touch. And I will read you one, if not several articles about this at the end. So, I think that's it. Hold on.
I call Kenneth 44317. This is Salem Control, over. 317, over.
All right, yeah, that's just some exchanges between Uncle Warren and the Coast Guard boat. So here we have it. At this point in the story, the 44 is going to... I have the audio of it, but I'm not going to keep playing it. 44 makes it to here. And at that point, Frank is en route, probably about around here, I would say, somewhere. I don't know. I wasn't there, but en route between Gloucester and Salem Sound. And right here, they get picked up. Right here, you got the view from Hospital Point. This is where a member of the Northeast Surf Patrol spotted the lights on the 44-footer, and they were only a few hundred yards off of this rocky shore. And so that's what it looks like. That's what you'd see if you were actually here. Just swing around slowly if I can. There's some islands. There's the ocean. So that's that. Alright, it's February 6, 2010. I'm standing on the pier at Salem Willows. It's very late at night, and it's very cold, but it is not rough like it was 32 years ago here. Looking out to sea right now, there's the navigation buoys and shit blinking. Just going to pan over. Right here, it's not going to focus properly, is Hospital Point. That's where the member of the Northeast Surf Patrol was, and where he spotted the 44-footer coming in. From that point, I'm just going to keep going. This is how far they had to make it. Panning over. Doesn't look like much, but on that night it was, might as well have been 10 miles. Right over there is where the Jubilee Yacht Club is. That's about how far they had to make it. Alright guys, when we left off, the 44 was right here off of Hospital Point. And Frank was on his way down from Gloucester to try to guide the 44 to Jubilee Yacht Club or the Beverly Harbor Marina. From here, Frank's still continuing towards Salem Sound. 44 gets off the shore a little bit and finds the channel. They start finding the channel markers. They're making their way. At some point they get blown off course, run aground, and their engines die. Now I have all the audio of this, but I'm like I said, I'm trying to uncomplicate this for you. 44's engines die. Frank is still on the way. Frank's not going to turn around now. Alright? Keeps coming, keeps coming. It's very crucial they get the engines running, and they do. They fire the engines back up. But they're not out of jeopardy. So they continue to Jubilee Yacht Club. Uncle Warren called over to Jubilee Yacht Club and had them turn on their searchlights. And the 44 seized the searchlights at Jubilee Yacht Club. And basically, they're out of harm's way. At that point, it's weird how this happened, too. I mean, I could play you the tape of it. Almost at exactly the same time that the 44 has reached safety, Frank takes a wave, a hard one, and loses his radar. It'll say in the tape I'm going to play here in a minute that he was taking a reading of Baker's Island. He was somewhere in this area. So he turns around right here, starts heading back towards Gloucester. Now, in case I forget to add this in a future video, at this point, shortly after Frank loses his radar, Uncle Warren and the Coast Guard start to call local towns to get their police cars. And what they do is, on the Beverly-Salem Bridge right here, they put some police cars. Up here at Singing Beach, which I have some video I shot from there, they put a truck with a 1,000,000 candle power light. All along the coast here, there are ham radio operators and members of the Northeast Surf Patrol looking out to sea with their car headlights and their radios trying to get a fix on Frank's position. The point of this, a lot of these things, I'm kind of maybe getting a little ahead of myself, but once he loses his radar, he's basically fucked, and everyone knows it. They're alone. There is no other boat that can get to them. If you remember, like I said, the other Coast Guard boats are down by Boston, which is a long ways away, trust me. So the loss of his radar is a big deal. So there are people that are actually setting up lights on the shore to give him a point of aim so that he can run the can-do up on the beach. I don't know, because I know a lot of you people aren't into boats. You might not understand the gravity of this guy's situation. But right here, where he turned around, is the open ocean. There were reports of 40, 50, maybe even 60-foot seas where Frank is, right here in the open ocean. And he's in a 49-foot steel boat. So let me play this for you guys so you can get an idea of what's going on.
Here's Frank on the can-do, getting into serious trouble. Yeah, I'm not quite sure this time why the problem here. The radar's down and everything else is down just about, so I'm just being on the way back. I'm trying to get a position here, get back into Gloucester.
Alright, now what he just said there was, he's talking to Uncle Warren, stating that the radar is down and just about everything else is down too. This is a reoccurring theme. You'll hear it again and again. Every boat that calls in that was out during this storm, radar's down and everything else is down. Basically, every electronic navigational aid aboard these boats was getting destroyed by the storm. Alright, now what you just heard was Frank saying that he was taking a reading on Baker's Island, which is right here, when the radar went out. The AM antenna came down, went overboard with a bang, and hit the roof of the wheelhouse probably, and took out the radar antenna. So he said he turned around just off of Baker's Island. So somewhere in here he makes a turn. And this is very important. Like I said before, the gooseberries were going to become an important part of the story. Well, here you have North Gooseberry Island, South Gooseberry Island, and the dry breakers. This is all extremely dangerous. Even on a regular day, people have gotten killed here because of how dangerous this is. Frank turns around, and as I've said before, now he's going back to Gloucester, heading into the storm. But unfortunately, the wind and the waves are so powerful. Now, nobody knows this at the time, but I'm just going to tell you because you're hearing the story, that instead of going to Gloucester in this direction, in reality, Frank's being pushed back into the gooseberries. This is going to be an important part of the next video. The next video is where the story kind of really starts to either take off or fall apart, depending upon your perspective. But, so there we have it. He's telling everyone that he's going to try to make his way back up to Gloucester and, keep his eye open for Gloucester Harbor. And right now, the 41-footer is at the mouth of Gloucester Harbor with its radar on, looking for Frank. But that's like 12, 14 miles away. So they've got their radar on looking for Frank, but in reality, he's not going to show up because he's not even heading to Gloucester. His bow is pointed to Gloucester, and he thinks he's going to Gloucester, but unfortunately, the seas are so monstrous that the CanDo is slowly being pushed backwards, unfortunately, into the gooseberries. Or the dry breakers. It's all one and the fucking same. I mean, it's all fucking death. But right here is going to be where we're going to probably end up picking up the story. Alright. Where this starts out, I'm going to play the audio for you. This audio is very important. This is probably the most important audio I'm going to play off this. Frank is in about 100 feet of water, somewhere realistically in this area. Now, he and everyone else thinks that he's almost to the mouth of Gloucester Harbor, which is miles away from where he actually is. No one can get him on radar anywhere. The 41 is up there looking for him. Now, I'm going to play this to you. You have to bear in mind, as I play this, that Frank's family, and I got this out of 10 hours until dawn, I didn't know this. Uncle Warren never told me this either. Frank's wife and son are at their house listening to this on a marine receiver. So, that's kind of important. This is kind of, I don't know, kind of rough to listen to. You'll see when it goes bad. You'll hear it.
Estimated to be about 23-30 hours. Yeah, I know at this time, we have it down here, trying to stay offshore, trying to get, find the entrance, more or less around Velocity here, but there's some howling out here, and not having much luck right now. ThePilotBoatCanDo, go off station 1, that's skip a little fuel like escort, we're standing by. Yeah, okay, if your radar's on, you might pick us up outside the harbor here, but we get nothing to work with, and we're just trying to fix our way around here at the present time. ThePilotBoatCanDo, go on station, roger that. If you want an escort, we'll be standing by for your call, over. Okay, roger. See if we can pick you up on the radio, and maybe you can see the blue light and such like, over. I see we can, maybe they can pick us up. Unit 12, this is Salem Control. Okay, Bob. And thank you very, very much, believe me, for assisting on the 44-footer. Have a good night, sir. Salem Control out. Okay, good enough. I'll be standing by. I'll be heading back. Gloucester Station, can do. Gloucester Station, can do. I'm going to handle Gloucester Station. All right, this is not a drill. This is not a drill. A mayday, a mayday, a mayday. Over. ThePilotBoatCanDo, Gloucester Station, roger. We have you. Good time. You can do Gloucester Station, can do. This is Gloucester Station, over. Roger, we're not sure at this time anymore. Yeah, we feel that we might have hit the breakwater. Negative my last, negative my last. Roger, you want to know approximately what you might be over there? That's a negative, over. Gloucester Station, keep on talking to us here, over. Station, can do. This is Gloucester Station, over. Roger, Mike, be advised, we're in shoal water. Look, give me it.
Alright, I'm stopping that there. I don't know if you guys can hear all this. I mean, I listened to it and I've heard it 100 times. I know what it says. They thought that they hit the breakwater, which I will show you the breakwater later on in this. It's a jetty in Gloucester Harbor that kind of covers most of the mouth of Gloucester Harbor. They thought that they hit the breakwater. Now, I've also heard several different versions of this story. I gotta be honest with you. This, when I was a little kid, is something that would, like, I don't want to say keep me up at night, but envisioning this, it's very disturbing to me. As I said, they were somewhere around here. The wind and waves pushed them back to here. Somehow, like I said, I've heard it several different ways. Almost simultaneously, they hit rocks, a shoal, and a massive wave smashed the windshields out of the boat. When the windshields were smashed out, Frank was thrown away from the wheel and knocked unconscious. I remember hearing when I was a little kid that he was blinded. I think I misinterpreted that. Blinded meaning he couldn't see anymore because of the windshield. I always kind of thought when I was a kid that like his eyes got fucked up. In reality, though, one of his ears was almost cut off by this. So, Charlie Bucko was the person that you're hearing over the radio speaking. And towards the end of that, when he said, "Be advised, we are in shoal waters," and you heard someone say, "Give me that," that was Frank, presumably snatching the microphone out of his hand, because he knew that his family was listening to this. And, I mean, you don't have to know too much about boats to understand. They're in a storm with 70, 80, 100-mile-an-hour winds, snow falling insanely, out in the ocean with, 30, 40, 50-foot seas. Being on a shoal, which means, rocks that are just submerged below the surface, and having no windshields, they're fucked. This will be the last time you hear in this a clear transmission from the CanDo. All the electrical equipment aboard the boat now is flooded. Every time a wave breaks over the CanDo's bow, the water floods in through the holes where the windshields used to be. The men are getting soaked. Also, something to keep in mind, the CanDo is now getting covered with ice from being out in this for so long. And with no heat in the wheelhouse, the inside of the wheelhouse is going to start getting covered in ice too. It's a very grave situation. What ends up happening is that Charlie Bucko takes over driving the boat, and one of the other men starts patching up Frank, who was pretty fucked up now. And two of the other guys on board go down below and get a mattress and stuff it into the windshield holes, which doesn't exactly hold the ocean out, but it was a good quick fix, I guess. I don't know. Now they're really fucked. Everyone knows that they're fucked. This is a horrible situation gone even more horrible. So, I don't know. You rewind that again. I know you can do it and listen to it. And when I say these men are heroes and how brave they are, I'm not so much talking about the fact that they even went out. If you go back to one of my earlier videos and listen to the screaming asshole that was aboard the Global Hope, screaming into the microphone, versus how calm Frank has been throughout this entire thing, and you listen to him on the radio. I mean, he's not a stupid man. He knows his situation is pretty grim. And then you listen to Charlie Bucko giving that mayday. This is not a drill, this is not a drill. A mayday, a mayday. There's no screaming. There's no... You get what I'm saying, I hope. These men really had their shit together. And, I don't know, that's why I'm taking the time to do this. Because more people need to hear about people like this. So, that's where we're leaving it in this video. They are, to the best that I believe, either on somewhere near the Dry Breakers or one of the Gooseberry Islands. Windshield is out. They're still totally fucked. They don't know where they are. And now people are starting to realize that they really didn't know where they are because it's not hard to figure out about. There's not a lot of big rocks out here, so they got to be somewhere in here. Alright, at the end of our last video, we left off with Charlie Bucko at the wheel of the CanDo giving the mayday after they smashed into a shoal and lost their windshields. As Uncle Warren put it, all forward windshields. So I can only gather that they lost every piece of glass in the front of the boat. Now, after that, the audio sucks. And I'll explain why in the next video. But you can hear Charlie Bucko, I think it's Charlie Bucko still, saying that windshields smashed out. I'm trying to find some deeper water because they're still, in a shoal. I don't know. I wasn't there. No one alive was, so it's hard to fucking really determine what they meant. But they're trying to get away from the shoal. and we got a mattress stuffed in the windshield. Action extremely violent. Now, what he's referring to there is they're on a shoal, they're in very shallow water, but they're still getting hit with, now, you have to understand, now the average size of the waves is 30 feet, give or take. I mean, there was some smaller, some bigger, but they're about 30 feet. So now the CANDO is getting lifted up 30 feet in the air and smashed down onto rocks. I can try to describe it as best I can, but I don't think you can even imagine. You're in a steel boat going up 30 feet and just being dropped onto rocks. My vocabulary can't fucking even begin to describe this to you, sorry. So they're trying to get to deeper water. Something else I didn't put in that last video about the Mayday that it was very important that should have made it in. Frank was a pilot boat captain. He had to go out no matter what, alright? Meaning to do his job. If it was shitty and a ship came in that needed guiding into the harbor, Frank had to still go out. So Frank was a very seasoned seaman. I don't know how else to put it. I mean, that's what he did. Also, Charlie Bucko, the person who was basically standing at the wheel with him, was a retired Coast Guardsman. He just retired from the Coast Guard, like that year. I got that out of 10 hours until dawn. I didn't know that. He was the guy who taught people how to run 44s. If you all remember the 44 from earlier. He was the guy who trained people how to do that in the Coast Guard. So, you know, these are not people that don't know what the fuck they're doing. They're very competent boat handling people. And I thought about that. I should have put that in the last video because, you know, anyone can get on the radio because they're scared and give a mayday. But for somebody who is a former Coast Guardsman, and Frank who was in the Navy, for them to be giving a mayday, you know that they're in a fucking bad situation. So I really wish I put that in the last video. Another thing, I haven't been able to really... the reason why I'm doing this video the way I am is because from this point on, once they say action extremely violent, you don't hear anything from the CANDO for a long time. So I figured while we have the pause in the audio shit, I'm going to make this video, which is about the overall storm. I would like for you guys, if you would, to when you're done watching this, type in Blizzard of 78, New England, Massachusetts, whatever, in the YouTube search thing there. There's a bunch of videos, news clips and shit about how bad the storm really was. Because maybe my words aren't describing it as good as pictures can, and I don't really have a lot of pictures of the blizzard, but this is some stuff that happened to people that I know, or some other stuff as well. My girlfriend's nephew dislocated his shoulder a little earlier in the storm than when we are with the CANDO right now. And the police came because they couldn't get an ambulance to them. And it took 45 minutes for the police car to drive them 2 miles. That's how bad it was. My father, about this time in the story, pretty much right now when the CANDO was fucking on the shoals and the 30-footers, my father's 40-foot cabin cruiser was at a local marina for some repairs. And the people that own the marina obviously were at the marina watching what was happening to their property. And they told him that his 40-foot cabin cruiser jumped out of the water completely. You could see the prop. Jumped out of the water 3 times. Pretty much consecutively. And on the 3rd time, it smashed down deep enough into the water, much like what's happening to the CANDO right now, that the bow exploded on the bottom. And the boat sank immediately. It's kind of a good comparison about a steel boat versus a wood boat. The CANDO is taking a fucking thrashing out to sea, and it's holding its own, for the time being at least, because it's steel, it can take the beating. My father's boat, which was in no way in as bad a sea conditions as the CANDO was in, jumped out of the water 3 times, and on the 3rd time the bow exploded. So that'll go to show you the difference in durability between a wood boat and a steel boat. I stated this earlier, but it's important. There are still towns at this point sending police cars to the coast to shine their spotlights, headlights, and their police car lights out to sea. Many of them got stuck on the road and couldn't make it to the coastline. And that's kind of why you don't hear much about the can-do, because there were so many other stories. I mean, that guy, that policeman, cop, that got stuck on some cold, dark road by himself. You know, that's his fucking story. If you ask him about the 78 blizzard, he might tell you that there was some boat lost and he was going to shine his lights out to sea to help them. But his story is going to be about how he almost froze to death in his fucking car that night. That's the unfortunate part of why you don't hear more about the can-do. So, at this time, houses are getting dragged into the ocean. Rocks the size of cars are getting flung up onto the fucking shore. Alright? Flung into roads. Entire towns. Their coastal part of their town is going to get blown away like a bomb hit it. Alright? In 10 hours until dawn. I'm not going to get into this because it's not something I knew about before I read the book. That's kind of been my rule as I've gone along. I've tried not to fucking use anything from the book, except for a couple little things that were important in my eyes. But in 10 hours until dawn, there's a story about some friends of Frank's that took an old army jeep, and they were going from beach to beach, just trying to see if they can find the lights of the can-do. That's a pretty good story all in itself. But I don't know, that's it. I got this video of Rockport Harbor that I think you guys will like. Most of the buildings in this video were destroyed in the storm. And you can see how much, you know, there's jetties and all this other shit. And the water just went completely over them. I don't know. It's amazing to me, but if you read 10 Hours Until Dawn, I got a picture of that building motif number 1. So if you don't know what it looks like, you can see it. Unfortunately, the audio in this sucks because it was windy and you can't really hear me too good. But that's what it is, Rockport Harbor, motif number 1. And be sure to type in 78 Blizzard in the Google search, in the YouTube search, because you'll find some shit that's pretty interesting. That'll show you the reality of Frank and the crew's situation a little better than I'm showing it to you right now. So here's the video, and I'll have a new video up on this pretty soon. Alright, this is the entrance to Rockport Harbor. They got a big jetty out here too. And if I swing over here, that's the building they call motif number 1. That got blown down in the fucking storm too, so obviously it was pretty rough to come all the way in here and tear that building down. So here you go. That's that. Alright guys, this is some of the islands, rocks, and shoals that the can-do would have had to have tried to make it past on its way from Salem Harbor back to Gloucester. I don't know if you can make these out, but most of this would have been submerged in the seas that we had here that night. And realistically speaking, they could have hit just about anything. This is in Manchester, Massachusetts. I'm a crappy cameraman. But there you go. I mean, just imagine riding down a 30-foot wave and smashing your bow off of that in the pitch black when it's freezing cold and snowing. And I got to tell you, too, I mean, the snow was so thick they couldn't even see the bow of the boat, never mind what was in front of them. So, on our way back up to Gloucester. Alright, at this point in the story, no one's heard from the can-do. Coast Guard Station Gloucester is calling over and over again, various frequencies. Salem Patrol is calling over and over again, various frequencies. And Coast Guard Group Boston is calling. No one can pick up the can-do. So there's some other little things that happened in the story, and I figured now would be a good time to tell it. This will be our second video with no contact from the can-do. At this point, the 44-footer over by Jubilee Yacht Club, it was actually at the Beverly Marina, not too far from where my old man's tuna boat is now smashed to pieces. The 44-footer was slamming up and down so hard that it ripped the cleats out of the dock. I got all the radio transmissions from this too, but I'm not going to play them. And so the Coast Guardsmen and some people from the Northeast Surf Patrol retied the 44-footer up using the pilings from the pier that they were tied up at. And in the process of doing so, they dropped a line into one of the props of the 44. So now the 44 can't go out. Even if they got the radar working, and for some reason they felt it necessary to send the 44 out, they get a prop on one of their screws, so that means one of their engines will not run. So the 44 is now out of commission, so they're not going to be able to come to the aid of the CANDO. Another big story, this is kind of like one of the ones from when I was a kid too, from this whole situation that I found just fucking amazing. I'm gonna play this for you. This is the 95-foot Coast Guard cutter Cape George. I'm gonna play you a little audio and then I'll tell you the story. So that's them saying that they're lost, the Loran is down, their radar is damaged. I've got tons of great audio from them, and from the Decisive, but I'm not trying. I don't want to turn this into the story of the Decisive and the Cape George, but there's some great audio on here. There's also a great narration from Uncle Warren stating about how one of the cutters, I can't find it either, I'd play it, how one of the cutters was severely damaged in the storm, and you can hear the gale ripping behind the voice of the radio operator or something. It was pretty good, but I didn't mark down where it was in the tape, and I'm not. It's like an hour and a half long tape. I'm not listening to the whole tape again. So, so that's that. Basically, what that was them saying they're lost. They're going to try to get closer to shore, and Coast Guard Station Gloucester then says to them that I didn't play it, but that the CANDO is now in a Mayday situation, and we request that on your way to Gloucester that you make sweeps of the area with what little radar you have to try to pick up the CANDO. So they do that. Now I'm going to show you some video that I shot in Gloucester, but this is the story I want to tell you in this video. On their way into Gloucester, they do what they can. Look, and you can't blame the fucking guys. It must have been like hell out there. You know, they don't mill around. They're trying. They've been called off by Coast Guard Group Boston. Just get to safe water. So they go by and they're looking at the fucking radar, but they're not going to hang the fuck out because they're almost in the same situation the CANDO's in. They're one bad wave away from fucking going down. So they're heading into Gloucester, and they did a hell of a fucking job, I guess, getting to Gloucester, because they got to the mouth of fucking Gloucester Harbor. And they come up to the breakwater, which is like a jetty. I was told this story as a little boy on a boat next to the fucking breakwater, looking up at it. It's fucking huge. It's a pile of rocks that just go across the mouth of the harbor. It like cuts the harbor mouth in half. It protects it, though. I see why they did it. So they're going into Gloucester Harbor with a 95-foot fucking Coast Guard cutter, and they hit the fucking breakwater. A wave picks them up and throws them over the breakwater long ways, the length of the boat. I think they hit it probably in the middle, and a second wave fucking shoved them over it. But I always remember being told that by various people when I was a kid, because it was a pretty awesome fucking story of the power of the storm. The breakwater's like 20-25 feet above the surface of the water, and it threw a fucking 95-foot Coast Guard cutter over the breakwater. So that's that. I'll show you the video I shot of it. You can't see it too good because I'm a good ways away, and I'm not exactly using a fucking NASA camera. So that's that. Next video, we will be back with the crew of the CANDO. Alright, here we are, Gloucester Harbor. What you see before you, if you can make it out, is the Eastern Point Lighthouse and the breakwater. It's about 20-25 feet high. And as a kid, I remember hearing this, and it was always one of the more amazing parts of the story. A 95-foot Coast Guard cutter, I didn't know the name of it when I was a kid, I believe it was a Cape George, was trying to find the mouth of Gloucester Harbor during the storm. Just on the other side of that breakwater is the open ocean. I mean, it was probably 30-40 foot seas. And they were actually picked up by a wave and flung over, smashing the breakwater, but were thrown over the breakwater by a wave in a 95-foot boat. I'm trying to tell you that to give you an idea of exactly how bad the ocean was that night. So there's the breakwater, and I think a very interesting part of the story. And right over here, as I try to spin without messing this up, is the entrance to Gloucester Harbor. I mean, this right here, that little stretch of ocean right there is what the crew of the Can-Do was trying to find. And well, obviously they never found it again. Alright, at this point in the story, we're going to get back with the Can-Do. Try to explain this as best I can. I've heard this story 100 times from 100 different people, and every time I hear it, it's a little different. That's just the nature of life. But this, I believe, is the most accurate depiction I can give you. And if some of the things are out of order, I'm sorry, but what are you going to do? I'm telling this more accurately than the news media ever did, trust me. You'll learn about that. So what we have now is the Can-Do obviously lost its AM antenna for its AM radio. Boom, overboard. That's how they lost their radar. When the windshield busted in, it shorted out the boat's electrical system, which also took out the VHF marine radio that they had been talking on. Now they have an HT, a handheld VHF marine radio, which, I mean, at that time, I mean, those antiques like that probably ain't that good. I mean, not like the stuff we got now. But, whatever, he's got it. I'm sure it was a decent one. But, so this is what happens since the last time this is what's happened while no one could hear the Can-Do, while everyone was calling them and they weren't answering. They're in 30-40 foot seas, like I said, just motoring along. And I can't tell you how big it was, but a wave much bigger than the 20, 30, 40 footers that they had been in up until now. An enormous fucking wave crashes over the Can-Do. Just floods it with water. Pretty much the boat was under. And at that point, aside from the mattress getting pushed back out of the windshield and water pouring into the wheelhouse again, water also went down the exhaust pipe. So the water goes in the exhaust, it kills the engine. So now the Can-Do is dead. No engine. Which is an extremely big deal. So they set an anchor, and now I'm going to introduce you. Which I'm not minimalizing that. That's a huge story too, but I've never heard much firsthand about it. But just imagine being in 40-foot seas on a fucking 50-foot boat, 30-foot seas even, and an ice-covered boat trying to climb out onto the bow to fucking set a fucking anchor. I don't think I need to tell you much about it. You have an imagination. So here we go. This is and you also hear a lot about amateur radio operators, hams, saying about how hams can help out and save the day in an emergency. Well, this is going to be an example of one. But there's going to be a lot of audio in this fucking video. This is Mel Cole of Beverly Base, or Beverly Control, he'll be called, and his talking with Frank. I'll pause it when I need to, and I'm going to have to jump ahead, but here we go.
This time, probably after 1:30 in the morning, when I received a landline call from Mel Cole, a fellow amateur radio operator friend in Beverly, who stated that he had his boat radio in his ham shack and was reading the Can-Do fairly well on his 2-liter beam
think that's it for that. You hear the can-do actually pretty clearly. I'm surprised it comes in that good. You hear the can-do there answering back to him. Now, their radio's going to start breaking up because they don't have a good battery in it, on top of everything else. I mean, to talk about a bunch of guys that are just getting fucked. Everything they fucking touch is falling apart because of the storm, I guess. So I'm going to try to get this as close as I can to where I want it. So, alright, you're going to have to listen to a couple seconds of something else. The beginning of this, I don't know what it is, the first like 4 seconds. But this will be Mel. Now what's going to happen, which is good for you, is that when Mel talks to the can-do, he needs the Coast Guard Group Boston and Coast Guard Station Gloucester and Salem Control to hear it, which they can't. So he's going to repeat everything the can-do says, so that you're going to hear basically secondhand, but he's trying to get it correct so that you know, they can assist the can-do. So this is Mel talking to the can-do. The static is the can-do. You're not going to really be able to make out what they're saying. Except for you guys out there with the earphones on, maybe you can dial it in a little better. But so this is the can-do talking to Mel, and his exchanges with Coast Guard Station Gloucester.
Yeah, roger, roger. The anchor is still holding. They have a mattress in the front window that's keeping the seas out pretty well. The water is not building up on them intolerably. They're having no luck at all in getting their batteries up and getting their engine on. The 32-volt battery is shorted out. They can't seem to get it back on here, so they cannot start the engine. They're taking a beating just from the seas, but they are in no worse shape, generally speaking. No one's been injured any more than before. Go ahead. Roger, appreciate your information. The next time that you are in contact with them, would try to make an effort to see who has been injured. We've been an awful lot of phone calls. And also, more Frank Quirk is involved here. So I appreciate that information if you can get it next time. Over. Sorry we didn't convey that to you. It's Frank that was injured. Go ahead. He says it's cuts, and that's about it. I'm assuming he's doing much of the work there, that it is not serious. He's just been cut up by flying glass, and he's apparently all right. He's the one that's been doing the talking on the rig. Go ahead. This is Mattresses, right? ThePilotBoatCanDo, this is Beverly Base. Okay, Frank, you've probably been monitoring most of that. I guess I've been telling the story about his face. You've given it to me, and you understand that we do not get a better fix on you than we had before. Ralph's got so much snow static on his antennas, he just couldn't pin you. So, sorry, we'll just have to cross our fingers and hang on out there.
That's that. I actually had some video of the shore that the beach that they brought the light to, but I'm not going to be able to fit it in this one. All right, there you got it. You have to understand too. This boat is going up 30 feet and being dropped off of waves, and because it's on an anchor, it's rolling like 60 degrees each way, port to starboard. The wheelhouse windows are going into the water from side to side, not only going up and down. And if you heard them, he was saying try to make it over to the CB, and he's saying I don't even think we want to move. They got guys trying to hold the water, I mean the mattress and the windshield. It's just I don't know. I can't imagine. I can't really describe it, but just think. it's too much effort to go to the radio, to the CB to try to work, because they figured it didn't work last time. Why is it going to work this time? But they're wedged in between the table and the wall. I don't know. It must have been pretty fucking rough. All right. What we have here is going to be the last two communications that came out of the CanDo. So I'm going to do the first one. I mean, the first one now. This one will be by radio with Frank talking to Mel Cole. This is actually just Mel Cole repeating back to Coast Guard Station Gloucester what Frank had said. So this is that, and the next one, I'll get into it when I get there. We'll just do this one now. That has nothing to do with what we're talking about right now. So that was that. The one thing I would like to add, though, is it was kind of creepy if you listen to the, which I've heard that transmission from Frank. And at the very end of it, he says, it's really ripping out here. Pretty quietly. He's pretty beat. Like I said, he's lost a lot of blood because of his ear getting cut off. And so that's that. They keep trying to get him to go get out of the wheelhouse, but it was something to do with who he was. He didn't want to be below, and you can almost see what somebody like that. He wanted to be up in the wheelhouse where he could see. It's how I've always looked at it. That if there was light to be seen, or if there was another boat coming to get them, that he could look out of the wheelhouse. If he was below, he wasn't going to be able to do that. So that's a part of, I think, why Frank didn't go below. But like they said, he was, counting his crew wrong. Because, this is a lot more of a violent situation probably than any of us actually understand. So here we are. Unfortunately, my tape doesn't have this on it, which is weird. But I have heard it, and I know that this is accurate. This is a transcript of the final communication given by the CanDo. It actually says 3:30 a.m., but I have a better source that says 3:20 a.m. was the actual time of the final broadcast of the CanDo. So whatever, I'm going with mine. 3:20 a.m. Beverly Base is what it says. Now we have Frank. So basically, it's Mel trying to call him. So he's Beverly Base, and then you have Frank. The CanDo, we're getting pretty wet up here. The hatch is loose, and we're going to try to move aft. Mel. Okay, Frank, take your time and try to get all the cover over you as possible. Frank, it's about 2 hours to dawn, and latest weather promises abating seas. Gloucester Coast Guard will get a 44-footer going to your position then. The truth is that he was kind of, I don't want to say lying to him, but he was just trying to, boost his spirits, because as you guys know now, the 44-footer was heavily damaged and it wasn't going anywhere. The seas would have to abate quite a bit before the 41 could go back out, or the Decisive would be able to go into Salem Sound, and there was no report of abating seas. But Frank sounded weary, and he was just trying to fucking give him something to boost his spirits. So then Frank says, okay, Mel, we'll hold on. Sure wish I could raise some power. It's cold and really hopping out here, but we're making it. And then Mel says, okay, Frank, don't waste your batteries. You were breaking up on your last transmission. Get some rest, and I'll be here when you come back on the air. That was it. they had been communicating every half hour, on the half hour. And so that was like 3:20, 3:30. So now in the transcript we have 4 a.m., cold to can do, cold to can do. 4:30 a.m., cold to can do, no answer, no answer. And 4:35 a.m., Boston Coast Guard to Cole. Are you still able to raise the can do? And Cole, that's a negative. It's been over an hour since my last contact. We'll keep trying. Cole stayed on the air until 10 a.m. trying to raise the can do. So, that's that for this video. Right there you have the final transmission from the can do. Alright guys, headline in the Gloucester newspaper said on the morning of February 7th, 1978, can-do feared lost. I'd like to be able to tell you guys that somehow a battered and smashed can-do made its way into Marblehead Harbor or Salem Harbor, but you know the truth is it didn't. This ain't Hollywood, and fucking stories don't end with happy endings. So here we have the Salem Evening News. I figured I'd use this because Salem is actually where it happened. And headline was, "Snow yes, but this is ridiculous." And it shows some storefronts that you probably can't make out that are buried up to the second floor with snow. Then it says, "Thousands leave cars abandoned. Travel ban put into effect on all roads. Waterfront residents evacuated." Then down below it says, "Sea floods Salem roads and cellars." And then, this is pretty awesome because Mike Dukakis was a douchebag. It says, "Governor declares state of emergency." And above Governor declares state of emergency, in the headlines, it says, "Tanker drags aground on bar. Salem pilot boat missing." So at least they made it on the fucking front page of this paper. I don't need to tell you the story. I mean, I just told you the fucking story. That the news article is telling you the same shit that I told you, except large pieces of it are incorrect. Let's just put it that way. And then, this is February 8th, 1978, headline, front page, Salem Evening News. A devastating blizzard shows, I think, a house foundation or something that got blown away, and some wood from the house, and an old lady getting help by a EMT or a medic of some sort. And then it says, Sea gives up 2 bodies. Yeah, early that morning, there was a huge rescue effort put out, and I have all the recordings of it, but I'm not going to play it. Coast Guard, Harbor Masters, everybody's out looking, the cops, and things start washing up on shore. A life ring that said "can do" on it. A couple bumpers that that go on the side of the boat that said "can do." And well, in this right here, you have, I think it was in the hunt, Frank and who was it? I got their obituaries right here. It was, yeah, Frank and Donald Wilkinson's bodies washed up in the hunt. And the weird part of that was a small plaque that said "can do" on it was next to Frank on the beach. It was kind of strange, but it's just like I was actually in one of these articles that like it was almost like to identify him or something, that so they didn't have to look, they just knew who it was. But here's another page. It says we're in a state of emergency, and this here, if you can't make it out, is a boat, a fireman on a boat trying to help a lady off of her. I shouldn't say a lady. I don't know. It could be a guy. It's a fucking snowshoe, trying to help somebody off of their porch. Then we have there's the Global Hope. Hopefully you can make it out. I got this off the fucking microfilm, so it says tragedy and recovery, and now right here it says sea toll now 4, and that is the report of 2 more crew members of the Can Do washing up in Marblehead. actually, not far from that place that I did at the same beach. One of them washed up on the on Devereux Beach, which is where I did that channel update from, with a really nice view out to the ocean. And this one here, if you guys ever type in 78 Blizzard, Massachusetts, or Boston, this is what you're going to see the most of on other people's channels. That's 128 with thousands of cars that were just left abandoned because the people couldn't move anymore. And it was a sad story. A lot of people froze to death. A lot of people died. But it's not the story I wanted to tell. This is just some pictures. You can see on this one down here, the waves are coming up to the second floor in this house. This house has been washed away. Come on, don't fucking piss me off. Here we are, tanker to stay a while. It's a picture of the Global Hope on Coney Island Ledge. Fifth body found on CanDo. They found the CanDo submerged in like 20-25 feet of water off of Tinker's Island and Marblehead Neck. I'll show you something of it later. And they found Charlie Bucko's body. Oh, you can't even see it. They found Charlie Bucko's body. It's right here in the engine room of the CanDo, presumably trying to get the engine running. And then we have this here. This is a very interesting thing I found. It's entitled Frank Quirk, Man of the Sea. It tells all about the night the CanDo was lost. And this is a few days, like this is probably the 15th, 16th or something. And it tells one of the many stories that I've heard. This is what Frank is famous for, more so than the 78 Blizzard. This guy tells a story about how he was 25 miles away up in New Hampshire, and he called out over the radio that his boat had broken down. And Frank was the only person to respond to his call for help. And Frank went 25 miles out of his way to New Hampshire to tow this guy all the way to Marblehead. And when the guy offered him money for gas or his time, Frank wouldn't take it. It's important I tell you this because the next thing I'm going to tell you is upsetting. I mean, the next piece of paper you'll see. Frank was awarded Gloucester's Mariners Medal for bravery at sea 3 times. All right? He's the only person in history that has been awarded the Mariners Medal 3 times. 3 separate occasions that he went out and risked his life to save the lives of others. And they're all documented in 10 Hours Until Dawn. And he's the only one to do it, I think, even to this day. And this guy's telling the story of how Frank went out of his way to fucking tow him in. And now I'm going to show you this. CanDo Fund off to a slow start. They were trying to put together a fund for the families of the men who died on the CanDo. And up until that point, I don't know, it said that they had only got $1,100. And I just think it fucking sucks that a guy like Frank, who everybody on the water around here knew and everyone respected, but no one could pull some money out of their fucking pocket to help his fucking family and to help the families of the other guys too. You know, it was a tragedy the fucking same for all of them. But I don't know, that's life and that's people, I guess. I got one more video I'm gonna fucking make on this, and then we'll be done. Because I have a few more things I fucking need to say about it, I guess. I know I use this quote a lot, but it fits a lot of things. Obi-Wan Kenobi that said, "Many of the truths that we cling to depend greatly upon our own point of view." And right now we're going to talk about one of those truths. The CanDo was raised. It was renamed, and it was turned into like a tugboat / workboat. There was a lot of controversy over it, and there is to this day. I can tell you, I can make a whole other video about that, but I'm not gonna. But when I was a kid, and I first laid eyes on that awesome black boat in the harbor, at that very same time that like I told you at the beginning of the series, it was love at first sight. I just thought that boat was the coolest thing. within a matter of months, before or after I saw the boat for the first time, Frank Quirk's youngest son, Brian, shot himself. You can never really say why with shit like that, but I mean, do you have to say why? I mean, the kid's life was ruined, and by that boat sinking, and just the idea of that boat being there, I think, was too much for him. I don't know, but I guess it's a really fucked up world that two people could look at the same thing and have such opposite reactions. A lot of guys that I've talked to over the years have been very upset about that. I actually talked to a retired Coast Guardsman that I know, I respect him, he's a really nice guy, who lives not far from where the boat is now, and he said to me one time that he hates that boat. That every morning when he shaves, he looks out across the harbor and has to look at his dead friend's boat. And I guess that sums up that, because I've heard that sentiment a lot from different people. So that's that. There is no memorial, public memorial at least, to the crew of the Can-Do and what they did that night. There is one, I believe, at Cape Ann Marina. I've never gone there to look at it, though, because I don't have no business being there. So really, the only visible testament to what those men did is that lonely black boat sitting in Salem Harbor. That's really it. A lot of people will say the boat's haunted. A lot of people will say the boat's fucking cursed. But the truth is, as far as I see it, that boat's just a sad, lonely boat that experienced some really fucking horrible shit. And that's all. You know, in the end of this, I'm going to read you something out of the New London Times or something. I got it off the internet. But that's kind of what the story is. It's a sad story about good men. I mean, Uncle Warren stayed on the radio, in his radio chair, for over 40 hours straight, trying to raise the Can-Do on his radio, trying to organize the search, and trying to organize the rescue for these men. And unfortunately, as time has gone on, it's almost like it never happened. Aside from the book 10 Hours Until Dawn, and you know, people like me that lived on the coast and knew the story and have met people who lived the story, no one would know about this. So let me read this to you. This is an interview that was done with Charlie Bucko's father, Frank Bucko, and it's about, well, just the end of it, but it kind of sums up, I guess, who these men were and what they were about. It says, some people have said that Quirk and the men who went out that night on the Can-Do were fools. Frank Bucko thinks he understands people's feelings, that the men were foolhardy. But he also thinks he understands the type of man his son was. Hindsight is easy, Frank Bucko says, but there's a type of person, and there are very few of them around, that when everybody is backing away, they're going forward. The men of the Can-Do were going forward that night, going forward to help save other men's lives. That was Charlie Bucko's father, and I guess I'm just going to leave you guys with this. Basically what the story's truly about. A friend looking for another friend.
ThePilotBoatCanDo, ThePilotBoatCanDo. Salem Control, 16.